Next on Currents News, the pilgrimage of peace continues. Pope Francis touching down in Madagascar, one of the world's poorest countries. But before he left Mozambique, the Holy Father got a special gift, one that reminds him of his childhood. 30 people are dead after Hurricane Dorian tore through the Bahamas, but the final toll is likely to be staggering. Thousands are still missing. And this exclusive.
After experiencing a sexual assault, one teenager chose life for her baby. I'm Emily Druby, and that is ahead.
The news starts right now. Tens of thousands celebrating with Pope Francis at his wrap-up Mass in Mozambique. Many certain the country will never be the same. Good evening, I'm Tamara Lane. Right now, the Holy Father is on the second leg of his historic mission to Africa, touching down in Madagascar. This morning, Francis said goodbye to Mozambique, celebrating a joyous Mass with thousands, but not before visiting the sick. Melissa Butts wraps up the Holy Father's two-country day.
Friday morning began the Pope's final moments in Mozambique. He started by visiting a hospital that cares for patients of HIV/AIDS, a virus that affects 23% of the population in Maputo. This center is run by the Catholic organization Sant'Egidio Community, and the project to cure those living with AIDS is called DREAM. They offer antiretroviral treatment to the poor. The Catholic institution has assisted in the birth of 130,000 healthy children in Africa. At the end of the visit, Pope Francis was given a wooden cross made from the remnants of Cyclone Idai. He brought it with him to Zimbeto Stadium, where he celebrated his final Mass in the country. More than 60,000 pilgrims joyfully danced and sang, welcoming the Pope to the arena. He appealed for forgiveness and reconciliation, despite difficulties and years of conflict within Mozambique.
Ni una familia, ni un grupo de vizinhos, o uma etnia, e menos ainda um país tem futuro, se o motor que os une congrega e cobre as diferenças e a vingança, o ódio.
He reminded them to follow Jesus' example and the golden rule, do to others as you would have them do to you. Just before lunchtime, Pope Francis was accompanied to the airport in Maputo, where the country's president thanked him for his visit. Then he boarded the plane to head to Madagascar, where he was received by the country's president and first lady. The Pope also had these gifts and cheers to welcome him. He met privately with the president before getting in a Pope-mobile to greet the thousands lining the streets on the island just off the coast of Africa. Pope Francis will remain there until September 10th, with a day trip planned to Mauritius for Monday. Melissa Butts, Currents News.
Before he headed off to Madagascar, the Pope received a departing gift that he said touched his heart, a ball made out of rags.
Eu joguei com pelota de trapo. Eu joguei com uma bola de trapo. Porque naquela época eram pelotas de cuero. Porque naquela época eram bolas de couro. Cocidas com cuero. Costuradas com couro. E só eram muito caras.
The Pope explained that when he was a kid, neither he or his friends had enough money to buy a leather ball, and rag balls were as good as it got. Covering every memorable moment of the Holy Father's pilgrimage of peace is Crux Rome Bureau Chief Inez San Martin. She joins us now by phone. Inez, thank you for being with us.
No, thank you for having me.
Right now, you and the Pope are in Madagascar. About 90% of the population there are people living below the poverty line. How will he give a message of hope to Madagascar?
He's going to have several opportunities to do so. I have to say I'm personally mostly looking forward to a vigil with young people tomorrow night, in which he's going to lead them in prayer, but also on Sunday when he's going to say the first public mass here in Madagascar, and later in the day visit Acamasoa, the city of friendship, run by an Argentinian missionary priest by the name of Pedro Peca, who's held bring some 25,000 people out of poverty.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the environment too. So caring for creation is a global issue that's very personal for Pope Francis. And the climate is a big deal in Madagascar as well. There have been droughts, floods, and cyclones, all making it hard to grow crops. What do you expect Francis to say about this situation?
I actually think Pope Francis is going to be very demanding on this issue. First of all, he's always asking for collaboration, asking for cooperation, but he's not a man who shies away from saying things as they are. We actually heard today in Mozambique when he told the local Muslim leadership not to let foreign interest or foreign investors corrupt them. This was very, very important in a country such as Mozambique, in which you have $2 billion that were lended to Mozambique and suddenly disappeared. And we're going to hear something very similar here in Madagascar. It's a country that is rich in many, many ways, but still has people. 70% of its country is actually living with less than $1 a day.
Inez San Martin, Crux Rome Bureau Chief, traveling with the Pope in Africa. Thank you for being with us today. Now in Madagascar, both Inez and Pope Francis will travel to Mauritius in the following days. The Pope's peace mission continues through next Tuesday, and Currents News will have special coverage you won't be able to find anywhere else. We'll have exclusive reports from Africa. And to stay on top of the latest news about the Pope's travels all weekend, go to facebook.com/thetablet or thetablet.org. Turning now to a powerful, exclusive story. It's about the preciousness of a baby's life. And the child's mom was 17 when she became pregnant. That was after she was raped. Currents News' Emily Druby reports on Christy Kohler's determination that her daughter survive.
Christy Kohler and her daughter Adeline live a life filled with love, happiness, and laughter. But it wasn't always that way. Her life changed forever when a friend she had trusted raped her.
We were close. We weren't like dating, but we were close friends. And he would, give me rides places sometimes and things like that. And so one day he was giving me a ride home, and then eventually he didn't let me out of the back of his car.
After the sexual assault, Christy faced a huge challenge she was determined to overcome.
I found out I was pregnant a couple weeks after this happened.
She knew having a baby wouldn't be easy. Making it even harder, she was in high school without a home. A fire destroyed the place where she lived. Still, the Christian teenager rejected aborting the life within her. She wanted her baby.
Even if it was easier for me, that wasn't right. Like, the easier path didn't make it right. And just because all this stuff was happening to me, and just because her dad was a rapist, none of that was her fault. And I knew that she didn't deserve to be killed because of all that had happened.
After Adeline was born, Christy moved to New York City. She wanted to go to college and study performing arts. Her dad, Robert, moved in with her to help out.
I believe God used her to rescue me and used me to rescue her.
He's talking about the way he learned he was a father. Robert didn't know Christy was his daughter until she was 3. Then he discovered she was trapped in an abusive household. He rescued her and today is so proud of Christy and her inner strength.
There's so much blessing hidden under all this. There really is.
And I'm still going to school and I'm still doing everything, and instead of my life ending, it got so much better and it has so much more purpose now. But she's the best thing in my life.
Still, the family is struggling with the cost of caring for a child and going to college. Money is tight, but there is help. The Bridge to Life, the Queen's Crisis Pregnancy Center, is giving them support.
Or helping the young women parent, helping them finish school so that they can be contributors to society with a paycheck.
While the Bridge to Life is supporting the family, Christy and her dad are trying to help themselves as well. And you can too by reaching out to the Bridge to Life at 718-463-1810 and asking how you can help. Tamara?
Emily, the Bridge to Life and other similar centers do a lot for mothers and their children. What are some of the services that they offer?
Well, Tamara, they have counselors. They provide items like diapers and maternity clothes, which can be really, really expensive. Basically, they just make sure sure that when somebody chooses life, they're supported. There's another really great operation in the Diocese of Brooklyn. It's called the Life Center of New York. That one is in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn.
Thank you for the story, Emily. Now to an update on Hurricane Dorian. Residents of the Northeast are next in line to feel the effects of the strongest storm of the season, even as she lurks offshore. All of the beaches in New York City are closed to swimming and surfing tonight and tomorrow because Hurricane Dorian is nearby. The storm is forecast to produce dangerous rip currents and 10-foot swells. The rain that's falling is expected to continue through the night, but the weekend's weather should be pretty good. But conditions in the Bahamas are disastrous. The biggest emergency right now is locating all the people who are missing because of the storm. That number could be in the thousands. At the same time, a humanitarian crisis is unfolding. Nadia Romero is in the Bahamas with the latest on what's happening in the island and the mainland.
Hurricane Dorian officially made landfall near Hatteras and continues to batter the Outer Banks.
A life-threatening catastrophe is unfolding in North Carolina.
The danger right now is the rising storm surge of 4 to 7 feet and flash floods as the hurricane churns along the coast.
Hyde County emergency officials are warning people, if they can, get out now, as they plan to evacuate hundreds of people trapped on Ocracoke Island by air, where rising floodwaters are taking over streets, homes, and entire communities.
Officials have given instructions to people to go up to higher floors. There are people on the second floor and in the attic waiting to be rescued.
About 1,000 miles south, Dorian's deadly fury has left behind a crisis in the Bahamas.
There are whole islands that have been wiped clean.
Popular and picturesque tourist destinations are now gone. These before and after satellite images painting that grim picture.
Once we got up to Marsh Harbor, more of the central part, the town was just leveled. It looked like a landfill. All the houses were just leveled. It was trash everywhere.
More than 70,000 people there are in need of food, water, and medicine, according to the United Nations. In Nassau, Bahamas, Nadia Romero, Currents News.
An airplane disaster was averted at the last minute, and tonight a mechanic stands accused of sabotage. An American Airlines passenger plane with 150 people on board was rolling down the runway in Miami when alarms sounded in the cockpit. The takeoff was aborted. Investigators discovered flight controls had been tampered with. The airline's mechanic, Abdul Majid Alani, is accused of sabotaging the systems. The FBI's anti-terrorism task force claims Alani told them he did it, hoping to get overtime to fix the broken controls. There's a lot more news headed your way. FDNY deaths from 9/11 illnesses will soon outnumber those lost on that fateful day. But New York's bravest are keeping their promise today to never forget. Dealing with loss is hard for everyone, especially kids. We have a story of a Catholic camp that helps them have fun again. And people should stay away from vaping devices. That's a new warning from researchers. We'll tell you why. Ahead of next week's anniversary of the 9/11 terror attacks, New York City's fire department is remembering more heroes who made the ultimate sacrifice. 22 firefighters are being memorialized today, having their names added to a wall of honor. Each one died from a 9/11 related illness contracted after they worked in the rubble of the World Trade Center. More than 200 of New York's bravest have lost their lives due to toxins that filled the air after the towers fell. Fire Commissioner Daniel Nigro calls the wall a poignant and permanent reminder of the sacrifice of all who responded on September 11th. Dealing with the loss of a loved one can be especially difficult for kids, but one camp is helping children learn to grieve in a healthy way and remember what it's like to have fun again after experiencing a tragedy. Currents News' Emily Druby has that story.
It looks just like a normal summer camp. There's barbecue, arts and crafts, sports, but for kids, Camp Compass, it's more than just fun and games. Like for Kyer, basketball has always been a part of his life because of his mother.
She's the one that told me how to shoot a basketball, maybe around 4 or 5 years old. And she said, I'm not going to have you sitting around the house no more looking bored. I'm going to teach you how to shoot a basketball. And I'm going to put you on a team, and I'm going to make sure you go to high school, college, and the NBA.
That life dream was compromised when tragedy struck his family.
I lost my mom on September 15th, 2017.
Forced to deal with loss at only 12 years old, Kayer says he started acting out and losing focus on his future. Then he turned to Calvary Hospital's children's bereavement programs.
Speaking about his mother and speaking about just the relationship that he had with her and how it is that he can incorporate all the things he's learned from her to move forward in his journey.
His counselor, Rashida Sanchez, says they helped him let go of his anger and focus on his goals, like playing in the NBA.
I take my anger and my emotions out on the court.
Kayer says basketball at Camp Compass, it's a way to cope with his grief and honor his mom, which is what the week-long camp is all about. Every camper has one thing in common. They lost someone they love.
Although children are not adults, they are children, they still need spaces like this to be able to speak to their emotions, to speak to what is going on with them in their grief process. We are able here at Calvary to create that space for them.
The camp, run by Catholics, allows children a supportive environment to remember and honor their loved ones. There's bereavement activities like emotional support animals and other projects. The camp is 100% free, 100% helpful, and most importantly to campers,
it's just really fun.
It's 100% fun, something they may not have had in a very long time. In Manhattan Beach, Emily Drewby, Currents News.
Breaking news tonight about vaping and lung illness. The number of newly reported cases is surging. As many as 450 people could be suffering severe illness from vaping. That's more than double what was previously known. The cases are found in 33 states. At the same time, Indiana is reporting a third death that the health department is linking to vaping. Medical experts are calling the outbreak an epidemic that requires an urgent response. Throughout the week, Currents News has been bringing you stories about a new year in Catholic education in Brooklyn and Queens. Tonight, Bishop DiMarzio is with Ed Wilkinson talking about why going to a Catholic school is so important. Ed?
Thank you. It's back to school time, and Bishop DiMarzio is here with us today. We're going to talk about Catholic schools. Bishop, I guess a lot of parents are happy that the kids are going back to school. Maybe the kids not so happy. But it's another school year for Catholic schools, probably another tough year because the number of schools continue to decrease. Why do we continue to make this effort to keep our Catholic schools open?
Well, certainly I believe, and I think most of our Catholic people do believe, that Catholic education is worth the effort and the sacrifice that it is to keep it going. Just that it's very difficult to maintain the number of students in a particular school that make it financially viable. We know that the schools are subsidized by our fundraising, by the scholarships we give to the students, but it's just not quite enough for many families to be able to have 1, 2, 3 children in school at the same time. They just can't afford it. So we're doing our best to make it affordable and to make it as possible for as many people to use Catholic education, but it's an uphill battle, really, to be able to find the resources to do that. Obviously, if we had more state aid, but in this state it seems like a closed question, given the resistance of the teachers union to any kind of assistance to our Catholic education, even that which is allowable by law. They have found ways to even curtail that.
Yeah. What is the problem is in terms of numbers? Are there just fewer children around today, or is it just too costly to keep these systems going?
Well, it's a combination of things. There's fewer children. Many people are moving out of Brooklyn and Queens who were middle class that could afford to do it. We have many more poorer people who can't afford it. So this is all what we're facing.
Yeah. What do you see as the future? Do you see some more consolidations coming?
Definitely, consolidations are how we'll keep some network together. Bigger schools are, moderate size, not real bigger, but moderate size schools that have at least 200, 300, 280, 300 is the kind of the magic numbers. That gives stability to the school. So that's what we're looking to do.
Mm-hmm. And of course, one of the things we're always concerned about is the religious education of children. Right. Do we have a religious education program in place in a diocese that would be able to take care of all the kids who are in public schools?
Well, it's much better than it was in the past because we're really training our teachers. Most of our teachers now who are giving religious education classes and our after school and Sunday programs are certified. They've been trained to know the methods of teaching, to understand the content of their faith. So we put a major effort into that. Much of it is done online now, which we didn't have available before. People don't have time to go to classes, but they can do it at their leisure when they can do it. So we found a way, and we have more professionally trained people who are the religious education coordinators. We went, I think, from about 50%, now we're about 85%. These people are really all degreed people, so they know what they're supposed to do. And that's a big, in the last 10 years, that's been accomplished.
How are we doing with this new model of, each school is, it's got its own board that runs it. It's not the parish so much that run, but there's a board. Is there still a need for people to come forward and serve on these boards?
Oh, definitely. There's a lot of board seats to be filled. Again, it allows the parishes who are the sponsors of the school, the pastors are the members of the corporation. The board runs the corporation with the principal, whom they hire, and the teachers. It is a community-centered approach. So it isn't just one parish, it's several parishes in that particular area that we want to do religious education, and we want to do Catholic education at the same time.
Good. Bishop, thank you so much. And good luck to all the teachers and the students during this new school year. Now we throw it back to the news desk.
Thank you so much, Ed and Bishop DiMarzio. Still to come on Currents News, we're looking at a way to age backwards. A new study says we may be able to one day turn back the clock. The process involves a new mysterious cocktail of drugs, plus a sisterhood sewn into sweaters. Hear how one all-girls school is reaching out to new students. And the tablet has a brand new page called Our Diocesan Family, where you can share your pictures of recent baptisms, Holy Communions, confirmations, marriage, all the joyous sacraments. For more details and to submit your photo, go to thetablet.org/OurDiocesanFamily. Your picture may be published in an upcoming issue of the newspaper. We'll be right back. A big breakthrough tonight for scientists. A new study suggests we may be able to reverse the aging process. Volunteers were given a multitude of drugs for a year, and scientists found they actually aged backwards, losing an average of 2.5 years from their biological clocks. The drugs improve the part of their DNA that marks age and their immune system despite the passing of time. Scientists say it is very early in research, but believe it could have huge impacts on healthcare and the treatment of disease and how people think about aging. Finally tonight, a heartwarming story of sisterhood at its best. A sisterhood sewn into senior sweaters. When some neighborhood Catholic high schools closed at the end of last year, FONTBONNE Hall Academy in Bay Ridge took in 60 transfer students, many of them seniors. In an effort to welcome the new students, the girls decided they would add the closed school's emblem on FONTBONNE sweaters. Now they stand side by side or pocket to pocket. This year, the school's theme is Together We Are One. That is Currents News. I'm Tamara Lane. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.